Growing up, the computer lab wasn't just a place to learn. For us, it was a place where we went to show off a little bit. On most days, we were stuck hammering away on our keyboards, typing out various prompts as quickly as we were able. Before we knew it, those typing tests became a fierce competition. Everyone was fighting to have the highest words per minute. Of course, I never even came close to the top. I was actually so bad at typing that I'd lie about my WPM. When people would ask to see the results on my monitor, I always came up with an excuse. Oops, I closed the tab on accident. Dang, I clicked out of it again. Sorry, I just keep on forgetting. Over time, we were given permission to finally visit additional websites that offered more than simple typing tests or reading games on starfall.com. It was around this time in 5th grade where I remember visiting Cool Math Games for the first time, a staple of any good childhood. Just when I thought I was free from those typing tests and the fiery competition that came with it, yet another competition started brewing. See, there was this game on Cool Math where you were driving this little race car. To go faster, you had to solve equations until you eventually finished the race. My classmates and I would all start the game at the exact same time and race to see who'd finished first. And before you ask, yes, I was in last place every single time. That was twice now I had completely fumbled my claim to fame in school. I didn't have the highest WPM, and I knew 3rd graders who could solve their times tables faster than I could. I was desperate to be something, you know? I wasn't the fastest, or the smartest, or the coolest, but I did have a shot at being something else. Being the bravest. Okay, for the sake of this story, I need you to pretend like there aren't several videos on my channel that recount the times that non-horror games from my childhood gave me literal nightmares. While we were heavily discouraged from venturing onto websites outside of Cool Math Games and Hootamath, there were plenty of days where my teacher just stopped caring. I think they used computer lab time for grading papers and finalizing lesson plans. So I don't think they really cared as long as we weren't too loud. Which is kind of scary in its own way, but it's not the point of the story. The point is that with this newfound freedom, we were allowed to venture into the deepest pits of the internet. Through a series of unsupervised Google searches, we were able to dig up experiences more horrifying than any nightmare we dreamed of. In that moment, a new type of competition was born. Who could withstand the horrors of good old internet flash games? Something that couldn't be easily measured like a WPM or placements in a race. Nothing better than a competition where first place is debatable. And, luckily for me, my fear of being seen as a wimp or a crybaby was much stronger than my fear of whatever digital horrors my classmates had pulled up on their monitors. Surely there was nothing scarier than social ostracism, right? Today I'm going to share with you some of the most terrifying games that we uncovered in my school's computer lab. We're going to look at how these games hold up, if they're truly as terrifying as I remember, and how they succeed or fail in creating a frightening experience. To kick off this list, we're starting with a classic horror flash game that everybody knew back in the day. The House was created by Sentai Studio and released in 2005. A few years later, in 2010, they released a sequel that really helped popularize the series. If you go on YouTube and look up Sentai The House, you'll find dozens and dozens of videos of people playing through these games. One of the most popular videos on The House was uploaded by PewDiePie in 2011. The first video in this playthrough has over 11 million views. Subsequent videos in this series had 3 and 4 million views respectively. Yeah, these videos really put the house on the map and led to numerous videos of people playing through the game and screaming into their webcams. We start the game outside of the titular house and see a block of text. We learn that this house was built in 1970 and the family that lived here all mysteriously took their own lives. Inside the house, the first room we explore is the dining room. Well, explore isn't an accurate way to describe it. In this first-person point-and-click adventure, we see each room from a single angle. We can't move around at all. In this little doorway here, we can find a child's drawing of the family. The ghosts of all 4 family members haunt the specific rooms in the house, with the son's ghost residing in this very room. Repeatedly examining the photo causes the glass in the frame to shatter, forming a ring around the young boy. We can see the ghost of this little boy sitting on the windowsill nearby, and for some reason, his head is missing. Not too long after this, the basketball in the room suddenly explodes. Just moments later, the boy's head comes falling down from the ceiling. Why was there blood inside the basketball? After that scare, we head up to the next room, the bathroom. Here we can find a note on the mirror that reads, "Happy birthday, Mom. We know that you suffer from illness, but we're sure that you will be fine soon. Love you." Also a really good time to mention that I love that the ghosts communicate through notes. It's really cute. This is something they do in both games, by the way. Some ghost lore for you. On the floor of the bathroom, we can find a pill bottle full of poison. Remember to take twice daily for the best results. Picking up the note again, we can see that it's changed and now reads, "I love you too, kids. I will not leave you. I promise. I promise." As we click around the room and search for more clues, we occasionally see the mother's ghost appear in the window. Shortly after seeing this apparition, the bathtub and the toilet both begin overflowing with blood. From the murky depths of the tub, a woman rises, her hair obscuring her face. Before we have the chance to do anything, she smacks the shit out of us, which I think could be a sign that we should move on to the next room. In the kitchen, all we can interact with is a little calendar and a doll hanging from a rack. Touching the doll causes it to gently sway back and forth. Eerie. The calendar shows the month of March and the 5th day is circled. The text above this day reads, "Cancer treatment." Suddenly an ID drops down from the ceiling. The ID belongs to Maria S. Julie, a student at St. Martin's Scott. Shortly after this, the ID falls onto the ground and a body drops down from the ceiling. With nothing left to do here, we move on to the 4th room. The living room is... well, it's a weird place for a living room. Like, this is definitely an attic, right? In the room, we can examine a portrait of a man on the wall and a radio on the floor. Toying with either of these items will cause more strange things to occur. The radio will start blasting music while shuffling between stations, while the eyes on the portrait will begin moving. Behind the portrait, we can find a note that reads, "Sorry and goodbye, honey. I am so lucky to be you, wife. I will always love you." Next to this note, we find a loaded revolver. After putting the gun down, another ghost appears. We look at the portrait again and see the man's eyes are now overflowing with blood. The revolver fires and puts a bullet right between the man's eyes. We then move on to the final room, the corridor. Okay, sorry for being pedantic, but a corridor isn't a room. It's a passageway, like a hallway or something. It's the thing that connects rooms. A corridor is not a room on its own. This literally doesn't matter. I don't know why I'm going on. In the corridor, we turn on the lights and find a note on the floor. This one reads, "I'm sorry to God for what I have done. I love my family, so I kill all my family. It's the only thing I can do to stay together with them forever." Repeatedly flicking the lights on and off causes another ghost to appear. We catch sight of their shadow darting across the wall. Trying to flip the lights off again causes it to short circuit and blood oozes out from the switch. Picking up the note, more blood falls from the ceiling and stains the paper. The ghost appears again, confronting us directly this time. The lights go out, and when they come back on, the ghost is just inches away from us. She slowly lifts her head and lets out a blood-chilling shriek. And just like that, the game ends. The house is a very simple flash game. There are no puzzles, no combat, and very limited exploration. In each room, all you can do is click on items to examine them. You trigger the different scares and advance through the game by repeatedly interacting with the same objects over and over. I pick up the photo, I put it down. I pick up the photo, I put it down. I pick up the photo, jump scare. I pick up the photo, I put it down. I pick up the photo, I put it down. Some of the jump scares can be a little goofy as well. Looking back, it's genuinely kind of embarrassing how this game had me in utter terror from jump scares like this one. Once you've witnessed all the events in any given room, you're then allowed to move on. If, for whatever reason, you feel like going back to a previous room, your progress from that room onward is completely erased. So if you're in the living room and step back to the bathroom, you now have to recomplete the bathroom, the kitchen, and the living room. It's not a huge deal because this is a very short Flash game, but it was a very annoying surprise to come across while capturing footage. You also can't die in the house. Sometimes you'll hear the main character's heart beating, but it doesn't mean that you're on the verge of dying or anything like that. I'm pretty sure it just means that a ghost is nearby. It's also still so mind-boggling to me that the house's main theme is also used in Piglet's Big Adventure. In my video on Piglet's Big Adventure, I incorrectly assumed that the house devs straight up ripped this track from PBG, but it's possible that isn't the case. While making this video, I stumbled across this video on YouTube. In the video, Davu, or Davu, highlights a few other games outside of PBG that also feature the house's piano loop. And at the end of the video, they actually pinpoint where exactly this piano loop came from. It was a really interesting watch, so in case you're curious, I have a link to this video in the description. Back to the house itself, this game feels a lot less like a game and more like a digital haunted house attraction, and I think that's the best way to look at it. The constant barrage of jump scares combined with the game's incredibly short length really nail the feeling of walking through a haunted house. The complete lack of puzzles and game over screens only strengthens that haunted house feel. You're here to get freaked out, get to the end, then be on your merry way. The house is perfect for someone who rarely plays horror games that's looking for some cheap thrills and nothing more. It's also the perfect game to dare your terrified friend to play in the school's computer lab to deflect the blatant fear smeared across your own face. Sorry about that one, Luke. You were kind of a bitch though. There's this really cool article on the official The House website from the game's creator where he shares his inspiration behind the game. A quote from the article reads, "Before, everyone had probably seen videos or forwarded emails that tricked them into watching or doing something that required concentration, only for a ghost to suddenly appear and scare them. I wanted to take this and turn it into a real story. Back then, Adobe Flash was perfect for this. I could do whatever I wanted to and deliver it on a website where people all over the world could instantly view it. After creating just one room, I tested it by having my university friends play, and the feedback was very positive. Everyone felt pressured and emotionally involved. Then I developed it further, adding a storyline, background information, sound effects, and various tricks to scare players, resulting in The House in 2005. It spread very quickly from within the country to the rest of the world. I find it so interesting that the dev was inspired by screamers and jump scare videos. Creating a narrative around the jump scares is a really cool idea and a sick way to evolve this internet trend into something more. Look, Scary Maze game is a classic for sure, but that game is over in like a minute and it's just one scare. On the other hand, in the house games, you have multiple run-ins with ghosts, all while unraveling the mystery behind their horrifying fates. I think this makes the house easily some of the best screamer games out there. Albeit, there isn't much competition and the bar for quality isn't super high. Also, I do want to add that the story of the house isn't groundbreaking or anything like that. From the notes within the house, we learn about a mother who is diagnosed with cancer. Faced with the realization that she could potentially die and be ripped away from her family, she goes crazy and kills them all. That way they can all be united in death or something like that. It's a really basic, trite story that's only gonna scare the kids playing these games. Though the story does leave me with one big question. At the start of the game, we're told that the entire family all mysteriously took their own lives. Throughout the game, we learn how the mother actually killed her entire family but framed their deaths to look like the mother herself took poison, the father was shot in the head, and the daughter was... In the first room, we learn the son was decapitated. How the hell would he have done that to himself? That's some sloppy ass work on the investigator's part. Before moving on to the game's sequel, I want to give some praise to the game's visuals. I love how all the games are presented in black and white and created using real-life photos. A video on the official Sentai YouTube channel demonstrates how these photos were heavily edited and transformed into the locations we see in-game. This very same method is used to create the game's ghosts, each one being edited images of real people. It's just so damn impressive how much the dev was able to accomplish with just a few simple photographs. I also feel like this visual style really allows you to immerse yourself in these environments. It's another thing that really adds to that haunted house feel that I mentioned earlier. In the house too, we start outside of another house and see another huge block of text. In the text, we learn about a legend that this house has been closed and abandoned for decades. According to legend, the house once belonged to a wealthy family until they all took their own lives. The people in the nearby town believed the house to be cursed and had the house closed off for good. Some of the townspeople claimed they occasionally hear a woman screaming from inside. Yet, no one dare to enter the house. Are you? Yes, I are. What's really cool about this intro is that we actually get a little moment where we need to break into the house. It's not hard, of course, we just go up to the front door and click on it until these planks of wood pop off, but I really like that we can't just waltz right in. It feels kind of immersive and lines up with what we were just told about this place being sealed off for decades. In the first room, the living room, we can find a portrait of a family. It's a mother, father, and their daughter. On the chair nearby, we find a note that reads, September 19th, 1964. I can feel something strange in this house. I actually feel it since the first day I came to work here as a nursemaid. I am so afraid of that thing. Should I quit? The triple question marks are so Gen Z of her. On the same chair where we find this note, we catch a glimpse of the maid's ghost. The lights in the house begin to flicker and blood seeps down from the vents, staining the family photo. The maid appears once more and leaves behind another note. This small piece of paper simply reads, Daughter's year of birth. The note on the chair has changed and now reads, January 4th, 1965. Sometimes she talked alone. Sometimes she laughed at night. And sometimes she called somebody. More jump scares happen and the note changes one last time. The page reads, She's not, with the last words veiled by blood. In the bathroom, we can mess with the shower curtains, the sink, the toilet, and a little Bible on the shelf. After some more clicking around, a shadow appears in the window. Turning on the sink again, blood begins gushing from the faucet. As the basin fills up, we find a note sitting on the crimson surface. The note, scribbled in blood, reads, I am truly sorry for what I have done to our kid. Please, forgive me. A flash of lightning outside illuminates the room, and behind the shower curtain, we see a pair of legs hanging from the ceiling. We open the curtain and find the body swaying back and forth. But just a second later, the body disappears. We continue our investigation of the bathroom, then bloody words begin appearing all over the walls. The words, forgive me, are splattered across every nook and cranny of the derelict bathroom. We're then jump scared by the ghost of the father and decide to get the hell out. In the bedroom, we find a music box sitting on one of the beds next to a stain of dried blood. Winding the box causes a soft melody to play. On the wall, we can find the adoption certificate of Nicole A. Maddie. She was officially adopted by Millie G. Ruche and Mary Ruche on December 24th, 1963. Over time, we occasionally hear the giggling of a young girl and notes appear on the walls. The notes read, She comes every night. She loves playing hide and seek. She's really good in hiding. I never find her. Once we put away the last note, the daughter's ghost appears next to the bed and she continues giggling. More bloody words manifest on the walls. One of the girl's drawings can be seen poking out of the nearby dresser. The drawing depicts the girl, her parents, and this mysterious other girl that keeps being mentioned. The girl appears once more, rapidly appearing and disappearing as we catch glimpses of her face. Then we move on to the next room before we can get jump scared. As the game loads the next room, the loading screen is abruptly interrupted by a jump scare from the bedroom's ghost girl. Okay, I hate jump scares and screamers more than anything, but I have to admit, that fake out loading screen was pretty good. It's so creatively underhanded that I just have to have a little bit of respect for it. Once we flip on the lights in the working room, we can see a rope attached to the ceiling that extends all the way through a hole on the floor. We can find a bottle of poison in the room and a document inside of a drawer. The paper turns out to be a birth certificate for someone named Alrina Rouchet. They were born on October 8th, 1947, and they were the child of Millie and Mary Rouchet. We bumble around the room some more, and the rope suddenly yanks up the body attached to it. We can't see the body's face, but it's likely that this is the body of the family's mother, Mary. We also find a key for the safe room. When we mess with the light switch, the body disappears, and once the lights come back on, a piece of paper appears beneath the bed here. The paper is a letter that reads, "I can't stand to see you suffer like this anymore. Rest in peace, my poor child." Pro tip, if you're going to kill someone, you should totally document your feelings going into it. You'll have a lot of pent-up, mixed feelings, and writing it down is always a good way to work through those emotions. The paper then changes into a photo of a baby, and the baby appears to be asleep. Before we can look at the photo for long, a ghostly hand appears and snatches the photo away from us. The final room, the safe room, is mostly empty. The only thing we can interact with is a giant safe in here. To open the safe and beat the game, we need to input the right code. That's right, you heard me. The house 2 has one puzzle in it. Hell yeah! I was so excited to dig through all of the previous rooms and piece together this final puzzle, but unfortunately it's not that deep. The code is 1947, the birth date found on the documents in the previous room. But hey, at least we got a puzzle. Inside the safe we find a piece of paper that reads, "Why? Why I have to die, Mom? I want to live no matter what." Damn. That's some quality ass penmanship for a baby. The lights in the room begin to rapidly flicker as a woman crawls out from inside the safe. When the lights come back on, the woman is nowhere to be seen. The safe suddenly slams shut and the lights continue blinking. Once the lights return to normal, we can see the woman is slowly approaching us with her hands covering her face. Once she takes up the entire screen, she lets out an ear-piercing screech. Then the game ends. The House 2 is generally just more of the first game. With the exception of one puzzle, we click around, get jump scared, and move on to the next room. One thing that I really enjoyed with The House 2 was the game's story. With the first House game, I feel like you learned pretty quickly what happened in this house. Once you finish the bathroom, I feel like it's really obvious that the mother went crazy and just killed her entire family. With The House 2, I was totally mystified. After completing the bathroom, it was clear to me that the parents killed their child, but their motive was a complete mystery to me. In the bedroom, we learned that the parents killed their birth child, Alrina. Soon after this incident, the couple then adopted another child named Nicole Maddie. Nicole was haunted by the ghost of Alrina, and the maid often heard the two girls playing together. All of that is pretty clear. But then why would the family all end their own lives? Were they killed by Alrina's vengeful spirit? And who was that ghost inside of the safe? If it was Alrina's ghost, why was it trapped inside of there? There isn't a lot, but there's a nice level of ambiguity in this story that made my first playthrough kind of fun. I had completely forgotten about the story of this game, so I had a good time piecing everything together myself. Granted, you won't need to bust out the detective board to figure everything out. I still think it was a nice change from the first game's very straightforward story. When we beat the game, we receive a key to the special room. Clicking on this key takes us to this huge block of text that just explains the entire game's story. And honestly, I think this straightforward explanation is super lame. If someone is seriously playing through any of the House games and legitimately Googling "The House Ending Explained," they deserve to be locked in a safe. If you're curious, the block of text explains that the parents, Millie and Mary, had their own child named Alrina in 1974. She was born severely disabled, and the parents felt that she wouldn't have a good future, so they poisoned her. Alrina's dead body was then placed in the safe, and the code was set to Alrina's birth year. Millie and Mary then adopted another girl, Nicole Maddie. Nicole often saw a long-haired girl at night, and this girl was an older version of Alrina's ghost. Before the maid could look into the couple's past with their previous child, she was mysteriously killed, presumably by the ghost of Alrina. As time went on, the family was confronted by Alrina and terrorized by her spirit. After all the torment that they endured, the family eventually decided to commit It's an interesting story that's definitely a step up from the previous game. I just hate that everything's cleared up in a piece of text at the end of the game. Just leave me a bunch of little clues scattered around the house. I want to feel like a little detective putting the story of the house together for myself and shit, you know? Something really funny about the house too is the fact that there is an official Facebook page for Alrina, the ghost girl. Looking at her page, we can see that she was born on October 8th in 1947 and she lives in Woodland. Lives in Woodland? Lives? Alrina has 10 photos, which are all different screenshots from the game. She also has 3 friends, Sintai, Nicole Maddie, and Maria Julie. On Alrina's wall, we can see a post from Nicole. It reads, "Where are you now? I can find you." Nicole A. Maddie likes this. What are you doing? Don't be the guy who likes their own vague posts. Another post from Alrina reads, "It's dark. I don't want to be alone anymore. Be my friend." Nicole A. Maddie likes this. So the thing about this Facebook page is that it's actually another Flash game. If you stay on this page for too long or try to interact with the page, Alrina's adult ghost will tear through the screen and scream at you. It's not a full game or anything, but it's a pretty cool piece of media that I wanted to bring up because I feel like it's rarely ever talked about. There is one more game in the House series, but I've neglected to bring it up until now because it's easily my least favorite of the bunch. I'm also not totally sure if it's part of the House series. I mean, it shows up on the website right next to the House 1 and 2, so maybe? The Halloween is another game that plays identically to the House games. But unlike the House games, the Halloween does not open up with text that provides context or explains what we're doing in this room. All we get is a piece of paper from Sintai Studio that explains what Halloween is. When we check this paper again, it later transforms into a QR code that, when scanned, takes you to the House Facebook page? Okay. Gotta spread the word somehow, I respect it. Also, unlike the House, this is the only room we get to look around. What you see is what you get. The main 2 objects we interact with are the light switch and the pumpkin on the counter. You keep clicking back and forth, get jump scared by ghosts, you know the drill. The ghosts in this game don't have any lore either, so we're being harassed by random ghosts for an unknown reason. Although there is no connection to any lore from the House games, the dev is a pretty big fan of the S word, so I'm sure the ghosts were involved with that somehow. Overall, the House games are really cool novelties that were shaped by an abundance of screamer and jump scare pranks that were abundant in the early 2000s. If you've played your fair share of horror games, the House probably won't faze you at all. Yet I do love how these games function as digital haunted houses that you can easily play with any of your friends that rarely engage with horror media. And I say, let's continue passing the torch. Today I want you to go and get one of your friends who hates horror games and make them play the House while you record their reactions on an iPhone or a shitty webcam. These types of experiences build character. Free Ice Cream was uploaded to Newgrounds on October 16th, 2009 by a user named Sparky. I have a special history with this game because I remember this being the one game that my friends made me play. With the House and practically every other horror game we played together, I was watching safely from the sidelines. And sadly, I wouldn't be able to do that with a Free Ice Cream. My friends had decided that I was finally up to bat, and I was terrified. On the game's start menu, we see 2 little girls approaching a dingy van with the words "Free Ice Cream" crudely painted on the side. If we hop on over to the credits page, we can see the 2 girls preparing to enter the back of the van. They're standing in front of a man covered in blood, and the only thing we can see behind the mask is a pair of beady red eyes. Hitting play game throws us right into the thick of it, and we are exactly where you'd expect to be after entering a stranger's van. I've always really liked how there's no cutscene or even any dialogue to explain what transpired. All the information you get comes from the images on the game's main menu, and really that's all you need. In Free Ice Cream, we play as the little girl in red from the main menu. This is another point-and-click adventure like the House. But unlike the House, we do actually need to solve puzzles to advance through the game. You won't beat Free Ice Cream by looking at the same 3 things over and over. This game is like 10 minutes long, so I'll quickly recap everything we do in the game. Starting all tied up in a grungy basement, we knock a bottle off a nearby shelf so that we can use the shards to cut ourselves free. The killer appears again and tells us off for making so much noise. We try to escape through the vent near the ceiling, but we fall and make even more noise, alerting the killer to our escape attempt. We hide under the stairs to evade the killer and he spots the open vent, assuming that we successfully escaped. Up on the first floor, we can access the living room and the kitchen, but both rooms have their windows boarded up, so escape is impossible. There is a stair lift that could take us up to the second floor, but there isn't any power and the fuse box is blocked by some thick cobwebs. So our goal is to destroy those webs and grab an extra fuse. To get rid of those webs, we need to grab the duster in the living room, but the killer's cat is sleeping on top of it. If we get too close to the cat... Fucking nasty animal. Excuse me? The only thing that'll pull the cat away from the duster is a bowl of food, but even after that, they'll continue being a pain in the ass. So killing them is the only option. Obviously, by mixing some rat poison with cat food, we're able to put down the killer's ferocious feline. What the fuck? I genuinely have no memory of this moment, like at all. With the duster, we're able to open access to the fuse box. We can move the single fuse in there to give power to the different rooms. We use this to give power to the kitchen, which turns on the keypad next to the freezer. The code we need to unlock the freezer is 1977. This is the same year on the portrait in the living room. This portrait shows a man in some professional attire, which could possibly be the killer before he started killing people. And you know what? I'll say it. Narcissistic as hell to have this hanging in the living room. Inside the freezer, we find several blood-soaked bags hanging from hooks. Touching the last bag causes a body to fall out. This little girl is the main character's friend we saw on the main menu screen. Oh no, poor Lily. The main character had a stronger reaction to a cat hissing and swatting at her than finding her friend's frozen corpse. Girl, it's just a cat. What the fuck? I can't lie though, this moment had kid me paralyzed with fear. Whenever I saw horror movies or watched someone play through horror games, it was extremely rare for me to ever see a kid get killed. In most horror media that I had witnessed, teenagers and adults were often the victims of whatever horrors were unleashed upon them. Whenever children were involved, it was extremely rare that they were ever killed. An older family member told me that this was because they weren't allowed to kill kids in movies or video games. Which, as far as I know in America, flat out isn't true. However, younger me didn't know that. So the thought always helped me calm down whenever I saw kids in some kind of mortal danger. Seeing Lily's body on the floor like this was beyond my comprehension. I remember gasping like somebody had knocked the wind out of me. She was dead and I was seeing it with my own two eyes, but I still couldn't believe it. I was convinced that we were gonna somehow save her, or maybe at the last second she was gonna swoop in and help us escape this nightmare. But Lily never gets up. She's dead. This game didn't just cross a line in my mind, it completely destroyed it. You think kids can't die? Think again, bitch. We take the key we found on Lily's body and use it to open a drawer in the kitchen. This is where we find our second fuse. We take the fuses and put them in the hall and second floor sockets. Then we ride the stair lift up to the second floor. We make our way towards the exit but end up dropping through the floor and landing on the killer. Before the killer can give chase, we quickly call the stair lift down and get away. Avoiding the hole in the floor this time, we dash towards the exit and make it to safety. Free ice cream isn't exactly as scary as I remember it being, but it's still a very spooky game. There are some shocking moments and the environments are all very creepy and well made. Also, the game does all of this without a single jump scare, which I consider to be crazy impressive for the time. In the 2000s, indie horror devs could not resist the allure of a cheap jump scare. They loved that shit. I think what made this game especially scary for kid me was the idea that I could have been in this little girl's shoes. This is definitely the type of game that my parents would make me play to make sure I stayed away from strangers. You know what I mean? Did anyone else's parents make them watch The Lovely Bones? Was that just me? When I was a kid, I remember being terrified of simply moving around the killer's house. I was scared that I'd hear his footsteps coming and be forced to hide again, like at the beginning of the game. Weirdly enough, that encounter with the killer at the start of the game is the first and last time we need to hide from him. The only other time the killer appears again is if you turn on the TV in the living room. Hearing the noise, he'll come running and you'll need to hide behind these curtains. If you simply never touch the TV, you never see the killer again. That's so bizarre. Another big reason why this game was so scary for me as a kid was because I had no idea what the killer would do if he caught the protagonist. My biggest fear is that there would be some kind of big, gory jump scare that would blow out the computer speakers. When I got caught in the living room as a kid, I remember ripping my hands away from the keyboard and covering my eyes. A second or two passed, and suddenly, all of my friends were cracking up with laughter. They told me that nothing happened, and I got really embarrassed. Guys, I was fighting for my goddamn life in the computer lab that day. If you fail to hide from the killer, you get a game over screen and have to restart the game from the very beginning. Once again, it's not that big of a deal since this is a very short Flash game, but it's still annoying. Oh, and also when the killer does find you, there isn't an animation or anything. When my friend said nothing happened, they literally meant nothing happened. The killer sees you, and then the game fades to black. A little anticlimactic. That being said, I don't think that Free Ice Cream is a horrible game or anything like that. Looking at the author comments on Newgrounds, I learned that this game was made for a class project. Free Ice Cream was made for a level design class. The focus of this project was, of course, level design, but also making a good puzzle chain. The game was made in a few weeks by a team of 5 students. The team originally had plans for more rooms on the upper floor, but they ran out of time. This explains the game's incredibly short length, the numerous bugs, and the limited encounters with our antagonist. It also explains why there's a bathroom on the second floor that's impossible to enter. This is likely where they would have expanded on the game further. With all of this information in mind, I think that Free Ice Cream is actually a really impressive demo showcasing chilling level design and simple puzzles. The team accomplished a lot in such a short amount of time. I hope they got a good grade on this project. Gretel and Hansel was uploaded to Newgrounds on October 21st, 2009 by a user named Mako Pudding. This was the same month that Free Ice Cream was released. Man, freeware horror game fans had it good back in the day. Gretel and Hansel was a huge deal, guys. Upon release, the game was ranked number 1 on Newgrounds, and over time, the game accumulated millions of plays. The game also got plenty of awards on the site. Front page, weekly user's choice, daily feature, best of the month. This game was making waves like you wouldn't believe. Of course, the game was popularized even further by Let's Plays on YouTube, but I think what really helped this game stand out was its unique art style. In Gretel and Hansel, the backgrounds and characters are all beautifully hand-painted. The game's watercolor art style is not only absolutely gorgeous, but it helped the game really stand out from the crowd. Not even just talking about other horror games, but Flash games in general. This game is really pretty, guys. The game begins outside of the home of Gretel and Hansel. Their parents argue before heading inside. We're given control over Gretel and go to eavesdrop on her parents. The story of this game is obviously inspired by the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale, specifically the one collected by the Brothers Grimm. So you probably already know what's in store for these characters. The parents continue to argue, and the mother demands that the father takes the kids out into the woods to abandon them. Gretel shares this information with Hansel, and they come up with a plan. As the family walks into the woods, Gretel will leave behind a trail of shiny stones so that she and Hansel can find their way home. Our goal is pretty simple. We just need to find 10 of those glimmering rocks. In yet another point-and-click adventure game, we control Gretel and use her trusty slingshot to interact with things in the environment. We can also use whatever items Gretel has stored in her bag to solve puzzles. The game, like most others on this list, isn't very long. There are 4 main areas to explore, and in these areas you'll gather items and, of course, solve puzzles. This is the part where normally I'd break down the game's story, but there really isn't a whole lot of story going on here. You really just collect those stones and then the game ends shortly after. But I do want to take this time to say that I think the game is really good. I completely understand why it raked in millions of plays back in the day. Like I mentioned before, the art style is beautiful. Each area in the game looks as if it was ripped straight out of a real storybook. When it comes to gameplay, all of the puzzles are pretty good. Nothing crazy difficult, but they're satisfying to complete. I can't lie though, one of them had me stumped for a little bit. Never would I have guessed to use a poisonous mushroom to get rid of a swarm of bees, but hey, I got it after a while. It's also just fun to use your slingshot on random things and see how it affects the environment. Now you might be wondering where the horror part of this game comes in. If you look at just the visuals alone, the scariest thing in this game is probably the giant spider. Well, the thing is, this game has a lot of that. This game is full of gruesome death scenes. Bitten by spiders, stung by bees, eyes pecked out by crows, there are so many horrible ways to go. These grisly scenes were no doubt another major factor that contributed to the game's popularity. Sorry for burying the lead there. Also, it's nice that when you die, you can pick up right where you left off. No need to restart the whole damn game or anything. I'm looking at you, Free Ice Cream. When my friend got Gretel's eyes poked out by a crow, our whole group had their eyes glued to the screen. It was like watching a train wreck, you just couldn't pull your eyes away. And I think what makes these bloody, grim scenes so memorable is the way they are juxtaposed with the game's adorable art style. You know, it's the Happy Tree Friends effect. Cute characters and gory fates. As I just explained with Free Ice Cream, child death in video games was extremely upsetting for me. So playing through this game was definitely a formative experience. What's really neat about these death scenes is not only their colorful variety, but how they encourage repeat playthroughs. When you beat the game, it shows you which of the 10 deaths you've seen so far, motivating you to go back and see them all. Or look them up on YouTube if you're a group of lazy-ass kids. Finding every single death scene is pretty fun too, since there are no harsh punishments for dying. Some deaths are even really tricky to find. You have your fair share of obvious ones like approaching a giant venomous spider, while others require you to solve puzzles first. To get one of the most brutal death scenes, you need to shoot this clock off the wall, obtain the clock hands, then position the hands to this exact time. If you've done everything right, this happens. Christ in a handbasket. See, you'll have really morbid scenes like this, but then some death scenes are actually kind of funny. So there's this one death scene you can get from this rabbit out in the field. If you pick up the rabbit, Gretel will kiss it until you put it down. And if you put it down. Me with my copy of Grim Fandango. The game has this crude mixture of comedy and horror that I think really resonated with fans on Newgrounds. On top of that, it's also just a really solid Flash game, so of course a sequel was inevitable. Just a year later in 2010, we got Gretel and Hansel 2. And hey, would you look at that, it also raked in millions of plays. The sequel picks up right where the first game ends. The siblings have been abandoned in the middle of the woods with no way of getting home. So much for the stones, I guess. And this game is massive compared to its predecessor. There are over 15 different areas to explore, plenty of new characters, and a hot new batch of death scenes. This time around, we've got another mixed bag of horrific and humorous deaths. Gameplay-wise, not a whole lot has changed since the first game. Gretel controls exactly the same, we store items in her bag, and we solve puzzles. The biggest change is that Gretel's slingshot gets broken early on, so she can't shoot things anymore. That sucks. Gretel now has a tree branch that she can use to whack whatever's nearby. The puzzles, once again, are great, and I'm positive there will be a few that'll stump you for a bit. I got really stuck on this one puzzle where you need to lure this bear into a trap by using a dead rabbit as bait. I did that, and the bear never got up. Completely unbothered. I thought I was doing something wrong, but no, that is the puzzle solution. I just somehow soft-locked the game and had no way to continue. So I tried closing the game and reloading my save, but that didn't work. So I had to restart the game from the very beginning. I'm never gonna escape this curse. The world of Gretel and Hansel has been greatly expanded in this sequel. After the opening sequence, the game opens up and we're free to explore everything this macabre forest has to offer, and there is a lot to see. There's a mysterious shopkeeper, a tree covered in eyes, people without faces, face-stealing monsters, fairies, tree chefs. This world just feels so big. The abundance of strange creatures and magical aspects in the game makes it feel like we're exploring an expansive fairy tale world. It's as if multiple stories collected by the Brothers Grimm were crammed into a single universe, and I love it. Just like with the first game, the sequel scarcely has any cutscenes and almost no documents to glean any information from. So when we come across things like an eldritch horror encased in ice, we don't get an explanation. I think that's what I love the most about the Gretel and Hansel series. So many things are left unexplained, and that really lends to the horror and fairy tale vibe. It also makes every encounter with a magical creature feel very tense. Are these fairies here to kill me, or are they here to restore some of my hearts when I die? I was fully convinced that everything in this world was out to get me. One of the best features added in the sequel is a little map that you can purchase from the shopkeeper. Once you've got this thing, you can instantly teleport to any location you've already visited. This is such a kick-ass feature that saves you so much time because there is a lot to explore and a lot of backtracking as well. The devs clearly poured a lot of love and time into making this game a quality follow-up. It is crazy to me that you can play such a good little game completely for free. Also, I need to take this time to say that the soundtrack in both games is killer. They have a very spooky folk vibe to them that perfectly fits the world. I'm particularly fond of the track that plays near the frozen ice witch. This track creates subtle tension that builds as you creep around this frozen monster. It feels like she could break out at any minute and wreak havoc unlike anything you've seen. At the end of Gretel and Hansel Part 2, the siblings discover a giant run-down house. But before they can head inside, the game cuts to credits, and a potential Part 3 is teased for the series. A few months after Part 2's release in October, co-creator of Gretel and Hansel, Mako Pudding, made a post on Newgrounds regarding Part 3. In the post, Mako Pudding writes, "Part 3 is beginning development. This time I'll be doing a closed beta test to make sure I get all of the bugs out before launch. PM me if you are interested in beta testing." A month after this post was made, Mako Pudding made another post announcing that the beta testing list for Part 3 was closed. In this post, Mako Pudding explains that the game would take several months before even getting to beta, but once it was ready, anyone on the beta list would be able to test out the game. Sadly, after this post was made, both the Newgrounds and Twitter page for Gretel and Hansel was rarely ever updated. Another post was made in July of 2013 teasing major updates, but that was it. No update on Part 3 or anything like that. A similar post in January of 2018 teased that big things were coming soon, but still nothing regarding Part 3. As far as everyone was concerned, it seemed likely that Part 3 was never going to be released. We were all left to forever wonder what it could have been like to finally enter the witch's house. However, on March 18th, 2025, Mako Pudding made another post on Newgrounds. The post reads, "Hello everyone, I just wanted to finally say that the Gretel and Hansel website is alive again and that we have a big announcement coming this Friday at 12 p.m. I will post on the front page that day, so stay tuned. There's also a countdown on the website. Thank you so much for the patience and support over the years. I haven't forgotten. I'm still alive and cannot wait to share with you more on Friday. That Friday, on March 21st, Mako Pudding made another post announcing that Gretel and Hansel were finally back. According to the post, the team is now planning to release a remake of parts 1 and 2 along with part 3 as a single game. Holy shit. The game is set to release on Steam with plans to port the game to consoles in the future. The game's going to be built in Unity with a new 2.5D style. This remake will also retain the iconic hand-painted assets that were present in the original game. These beautiful watercolor paintings would be made by DJ King DB and Mako Pudding, the original artists. Oh yeah, it's finally happening. After 16 long years, we're finally going to the witch's house. If you also grew up with these games and you're eager to get your hands on this new version, the demo is up on Steam right now. Released on December 9th, 2025, the demo contains the entirety of Part 1 and a plethora of new things to check out. New areas, new deaths, new puzzles, and old puzzles with new solutions. It's all super cool. Gretel and Hansel is a personal favorite of mine, so definitely go and check out the demo and let me know what you think. While I was very excited to learn of this remake and part 3 finally coming into existence, I was curious to learn why it had taken so long. On the official Gretel and Hansel website, we can find an FAQ section that answers this exact question. The text on the website reads, "We are a small, self-funded development team that has worked on Gretel and Hansel part-time in between full-time jobs for over 10 years. Since 2025, we have switched to full-time development. Since switching on over to full-time development, the creators of Gretel and Hansel have founded Spider House, a 3-person indie team working on the remake. I am so stoked to see what they cook up. I genuinely can't believe that after all these years, it's finally happening. Oh man. What do you think it would take to get one of those watercolor paintings? I need that art style in my veins." Exmortis was uploaded to Newgrounds on August 27th, 2004 by a user named Leffler Web Design. According to his old Blogspot page, he's from Sydney, Australia. On Blogspot, Leffler explains that he has been dabbling with computer design and concept since he was an 8-year-old kid making games and apps in LBasic on his old TRS-80 computer. Damn, it's quite the portfolio. According to the author comments on Newgrounds, Exmortis was Leffler's first Flash game. He had just taught himself Flash only a year prior to the game's release. The game ended up reeling in millions of players and currently sits at a little over 3 million plays. Insane numbers for someone's first Flash game ever. I remember Exmortis being the only game that my friends and I couldn't beat. I'm pretty sure we just looked up a playthrough on YouTube and watched the entirety of that instead. It's been a long time since then, so I'm positive I can beat the game without too much trouble. Exmortis begins with bits of text that explain our situation. We woke up in the middle of the woods and can't remember anything. Fighting through a terrible headache and freezing temperatures, we spot a house in the forest and decide to shelter there. We're then thrown into the game and we go inside this decaying house. Exmortis is, you guessed it, another point-and-click horror game. This one is most similar to the house thanks to that first-person perspective. Or should I say that the house is similar to Exmortis since this game did come out first. Exmortis differs from the house in the way that we can actually navigate through each of the environments and actively explore this old house. Oh man, it's everything I've ever wanted. As we investigate the house, we slowly uncover the truth behind our forgotten memories and solve some puzzles. The atmosphere in Exmortis is top-notch. The dark and gritty areas we explore are greatly complemented by the game's exceptional sound design. Muffled thumps from other rooms, hushed whispers from ethereal monsters, and the echoing roar of the rusted door hinges fill the sunless house. A comment on Newgrounds asks Leffler how he was able to create the rooms we see in-game. Leffler responds that all of the rooms came from images he found on Google. Leffler then took these images, popped them into Photoshop, and edited them to make them look super dark and creepy. He also added the items and elements from the game that we're able to interact with. This was also the same technique used to create the areas and ghosts we see in the house. I wonder if Sentai was inspired by Exmortis. That, or maybe this was just a popular method for creating levels in your indie horror Flash game. As we search through the house, we occasionally come across several mutilated bodies. At this point, my friends and I had seen a lot from our unsupervised trips into the deepest pits of the internet. But something about the dead bodies in Exmortis specifically had us all really on edge. I think it was because someone in our group told all of us that the dead bodies in-game were all photos of real human corpses. Genuinely can't tell you why we believed him though. I remember asking him how he knew that was true, and his only source was, "Trust me, bro." Also, this game had its fair share of jump scares, and those always had us screaming our heads off. I was kind of worried that this game would be jump scare city after replaying the house for this video, but the screamers in Exmortis are pretty scarce after the game's opening scene. The bodies in the game were created using a method similar to the one used for creating the game's environments. Another comment on Newgrounds expresses similar concerns that these images came from real dead bodies, but Leffler responds and explains to the user that this is not the case. According to Leffler, these are all edited images of coworkers and close friends, which is pretty cool of them. I'm not sure how I'd feel if a coworker asked me to be a dead body in a horror game that he's making. It just kind of sounds like a thinly veiled threat. Like I said before, this game was way too difficult for my friends and I to complete. I was positive that this was because we were all a bunch of dumbass kids, but after playing this game through as a fully functioning adult, yeah, it's still really hard. I thought I was progressing through the game just fine, but at one point I got stuck and I didn't know how to proceed. Early on I found a keypad, but I had no idea what the code could be. I looked around all of the previous rooms, deeply examined what I thought were clues to the code, yet I couldn't figure out how to advance. I eventually caved and consulted a walkthrough, one written by Ben Leffler himself, and found that there was another room in the house I was completely unaware of. In this hallway on the second floor, you can open a hatch on the ceiling that leads to the attic. Okay, don't know how I missed that, but that's on me. I'll take the L on that one. But even after opening the attic, I didn't really have any idea what I should be doing. There's a dead body in here, but nothing that helped me figure out the code for the keypad. I spent a good few minutes looking around this room, but I couldn't find anything. So I swallowed my pride and I opened the walkthrough once again and learned that you can examine this exact tile of wood on the right side of the attic to find a code. This is the code I need to enter on the keypad. Alright, this is ridiculous! My biggest gripe with Exmortis is having to search high and low for these clues that easily blend in with the background. Later in the game, I got stuck again because the door in the cellar refused to open. Leffler's walkthrough notes that you need to find every book and every symbol to have the door open, which is strange because I thought I had seen them all. Here in the library, there is one book and one symbol that I completely missed. The book I need is this very small white book on the shelf here. You see it? I thought that was part of the background. The symbol I need is right next to the severed arm on the couch. That one. Right there. From this perspective, the symbol looks like inconspicuous drops of blood, so of course I never thought twice about it. These little instances of pixel hunting made Exmortis a bit of a pain in the ass to play through. It's strange because I feel like there's an easy remedy to this issue that's already present in the game. At the very beginning of the game, before we even enter the house, if we hover our cursor over the front door, it becomes slightly brighter. This noticeable visual change conveys that we can interact with the door. If this same effect was applied to every interactable object in the game, I think Exmortis would have been a much more enjoyable experience. It sucks because the game has a really nice atmosphere that's very unsettling, but I always get taken out of it whenever I need to pause the game and pull up a walkthrough. Hey, you want to know a secret? If you press tab over and over, you can see every interactable object in a room. I don't know why this happens, but it works, and it's really freaking useful. I learned about this after I had already beat the game for this video, but if you plan on playing it, here you go. Another issue I had with Exmortis relates to the game's story. A majority of the story is explained to us through the books we find around the house. There are 3 books in total, and god damn is there so much reading. The book in the lounge has 12 pages to read through, the one in the safe has 7 pages, and the diary in the library has 10 pages. So that's 29 pages in total. That might not sound like a lot on its own, but keep in mind that it can take about 30 to 40 minutes to get through this game on a first time playthrough. About half of that time is spent reading through the books. Now you can just flip through the books and close them, but if you do that, you miss out on a lot of the game's story. At the end of my last video, I did say that I wanted to read more in 2026, so I guess I brought this upon myself. See, I don't have a problem with the books themselves. In fact, I think they're all really well written. My problem is that it's a lot of reading in a short amount of time, and it is a great deal of information to digest. I just wish there was a better balance between learning the game's story from written text and experiencing the story firsthand through gameplay. Again, this was Leffler's very first Flash game, so I'm trying to keep my expectations in check. Sorry that you've had to experience what my friends refer to as my incessant bitching. On a more positive note, the story of Exmortis is really interesting. It's also really dense with info, so I'll try my best to give you a more condensed version of the game's plot. Essentially, we learn from the books that this house belongs to Xavier Rayam. And before you ask, no, I don't know how to pronounce that last name. I'm literally just winging it. According to Leffler's old blogspot, even he doesn't know how to pronounce the name, so I think I'm in the clear. In this post, Leffler also mentions that he took the name from a customer during his time as an IT sales consultant, and that's just really funny. Xavier moved into this house with his daughter shortly after his wife passed away. In the house's library, Xavier found a mysterious book called the Book of Exmortis, and quickly translated the text. Once he finished translating the book, his daughter Gwen began acting strangely. Gwen would often watch Xavier in silence while occasionally lashing out in fits of anger. One day, Gwen temporarily returned to normal and begged Xavier to save her. She ultimately reverted back to her odd state, and Xavier had no idea how to rescue his daughter from this supernatural affliction. To make matters worse, Xavier and his daughter were trapped in the house by vengeful spirits that haunt the place. With literally no options left at his disposal, Xavier decided to give his daughter a mercy kill. All alone in the house, Xavier spent the rest of his days reading and researching, hoping that death would soon come for him. The book that Xavier translated, the Book of Exmortis, detailed the origins of mysterious beings known as ancients. These powerful entities ruled over the world long before humans ever existed. This is where the cosmic horror elements of the story comes in, and I think all of this lore is really cool. But I feel like we learn way too much about these entities, and it ends up making everything feel marginally less frightening. Personally, I think the less we know about the ancients, the better. From the Book of Exmortis, we learn that a powerful ancient named Vlay is prophesied to return and wreak havoc on Earth with his cult of Exmortis. From the text, we also learn about the other ancients out there and the wars they fought and how their history was eventually lost to time. It's all really interesting, but it is a huge info dump that ends with us knowing basically everything there is to know about the ancients. It leaves very little room for our imagination to fill in the blanks concerning the horrifying nature of these creatures. We're on a first-name basis now. In the final book, we learn of a hunter that came across this house while he was out in the woods. The hunter investigates the house and is eventually trapped inside by hostile spirits. For weeks on end, the spirits drain the hunter's sanity. Vlay even reaches out directly to the hunter and convinces him to aid in his return. The hunter ends up losing his mind and gladly cooperates with Vlay to revive the long-dead ancient. The prophecy requires the blood of 5 innocents, which come to the hunter in the form of 5 innocent campers that discover the house. This book gives context to all of the dead bodies we find in the house, while also explaining the identity of our player character. The main character assumes that he is one of the campers, but after we kill a 5th camper that attacks us in the basement, he realizes that he is the hunter. The game's final puzzle is a ritual that has us summoning Vlay and unleashing the cult of Exmortis on the world. We can also choose to run away from Vlay and escape the house, but once we do so, we're attacked by a demonic creature. This ends up looping back to the game's intro, where we wake up outside of the house without any of our memories. This ensures that no matter what we choose, Vlay's return is inevitable. Again, the story is pretty cool, and I like the elements of cosmic horror here. There's just a lot of reading and some over-explaining that kills some of the mystery. When I was a kid, I thought this game was boring as shit. When I watched a playthrough with my friends, one of them would skip right past all of the book segments, and none of us ever objected to this. Now, as an adult, I can appreciate the game's spine-chilling atmosphere and the Lovecraftian horror conveyed in the books. In fact, I think all of the books are really solid just like on their own. My low-stakes conspiracy theory is that the creator of the game wanted to write a book, but made a game to gauge reception to his written works. While kid me wasn't all too shaken up by Exmortis, save for a few dead bodies that appear in the game's sequel had me freaked out to all hell and back. Exmortis 2 takes place in a world that's been ravaged by Vlay and his cult of Exmortis. We play as Mr. Hannay, one of humanity's last remaining survivors. We journey through the land in search of a way to destroy the cult of Exmortis once and for all. You know what, screw it, I'm just gonna say it right now. I think that Exmortis 2 is leagues better than the first game. It takes everything the first game did and improves upon it so damn much. Starting with the gameplay, I had a much easier time telling what I could and couldn't interact with. Whenever you mouse over something of interest in this game, text appears at the bottom of the screen to describe what you're hovering over. This makes it a lot easier to locate key items, since the text will tell you if there's something worth examining further. If text appears, you clicky-click to make a thing happen, then if nothing happens, you move on. I would say that you could use the tab cheat from the first game, but Leffler caught wind of this little exploit and removed it from the game. The text at the bottom of the screen is also really nice for storytelling. Sometimes if you look at something, Mr. Hannay will share some of his personal thoughts. For example, we learn from the flavor text that Mr. Hannay was once a religious man, but he discarded his religion after witnessing the atrocities committed by the cult of Exmortis. I always love when games do stuff like this. It reminds me of Silent Hill 3 and the way Heather would react to certain objects. The visual style of Exmortis 2 is very similar to the first game. The environments all look very drab and gloomy, but I feel like I'm able to see everything much more clearly. The first game is very dark, and that was no doubt a huge reason why it was so hard for me to find clues and key items. Here in the second game, I never once missed an object or a clue I needed to advance. I feel like that's thanks in part to both the visuals and the text that appears when highlighting an object. The sound design is still very immersive and great at building suspense. One of the most tense moments in the game comes after you exit the church. In the distance, we can see big red clouds growing on the horizon. This is a sign that the Exmortis are quickly approaching, and if you don't escape in time, you're toast. All you need to do is fetch the keys to the nearby car and get away. But man, is it easy to panic. As the Exmortis draw closer, the wind's howling grows louder and cracks of thunder echo across the land. In the expanding darkness, roars and cries of the Exmortis snuff out any silence that once hung in the air. My friends and I decided to give Exmortis 2 a shot a little while after watching the walkthrough for the first time. And I don't remember if we even got past this part because every time, without fail, we would all start panicking and losing our damn minds. We died like over a dozen times to the Exmortis here, and yeah, it scared the shit out of me. I think that after we died a bunch of times, we might have watched a walkthrough, but my memory is really fuzzy for this one. I don't remember a whole lot. At the start of the game, we're told a list of Exmortis facts from Ben Leffler. In this list, it's stated that some sounds he used in the game were taken from legitimate EVP recordings. In case you haven't heard, EVP stands for Electronic Voice Phenomenon. It basically refers to sounds recorded on an electronic device that are believed to be produced by spirits. Back on Leffler's old Blogspot page, he explains... I almost threw up. Oh my god. I can't handle the truth. Back on Leffler's old Blogspot page, he explains that the use of EVP was inspired by another point-and-click flash game called Lost Found. But I think he meant Found Lost, because that's all I found. The story of Found Lost revolves around a haunted painting that brings misfortune to its owners. In Exmortis 2, Leffler wanted to emulate that creepy feeling he got while learning the backstory of the haunted painting. He thought to achieve this by utilizing real EVP recordings in his own game. I'm not sure of when exactly you hear them, but there's a point in the game where you find a radio, and I'm pretty sure that this is where some of the EVP recordings play. The game also has several voice-acted cutscenes, and that's pretty neat. The performances aren't Oscar-worthy or anything, but I like them. It's little additions like these that illustrate how much time and effort went into making this game better than the first. The first game only had a few spoken lines from Vlay, and that was it. Now we have a handful of little interactions with other characters, and that's pretty cool. Last thing I want to say about Exmortis 2 is that the story is once again really interesting. On our journey across the land, we find more books. In this game, there are only 2 books to read, but they are pretty dense with information. Again, like in the first game, you can skip them, but you miss out on a lot of the story if you do that. Luckily, one of the books, The Diary of Mr. Locheer, was a particularly captivating story that really had me hooked. This book is the link between the first and second game, illustrating how the world responded to the threat of the Exmortis and ultimately collapsed. It is a uniquely chilling story that held my attention from the very beginning. The other book we find is a hefty lore dump that explains how to defeat the Cult of Exmortis. I tried getting into it, but I have to be real with you. I got really bored with this one. I gave each page a quick little glance and then moved on. From what I saw, there was a lot of information that was already explained in the Book of Exmortis from the first game. That was the main thing that discouraged me from reading any further than I already had. All you really need to know from this book is that Xavier discovered a way to destroy the Exmortis, and now we know too. In the game's final climax, we have a shootout against the Hand of Exmortis and his legion of cult members. It's pretty cool, we actually use a gun to shoot down the waves of enemies coming at us. I've played so many horror flash games where I had no means to defend myself and had to let various horrors just beat my ass. To finally gun down a bunch of monsters was really satisfying. With the Hand of Exmortis defeated, we make our escape up to the surface and meet the man who set us on this quest. In a terrifying twist, this man reveals that he is actually Vlay. In the past, Vlay's followers and closest allies eventually overpowered him and ended his rule over the world. Now that we've destroyed the Exmortis, nothing is stopping him from continuing his tyrannical reign. And how does he reward us for helping him out?
So, Mr. Harry, for your Romanness, I commend you. For your partiness, I applaud you. And for your helpiness, I grant you a gift. A quick death.
Nice. Now, there is an Exmortis 3, but I never played that game, nor did I watch a playthrough of the game as a kid. And since this is a video about spooky flash games from my childhood, I felt conflicted about whether or not I should cover the game. To compromise, instead of doing a look at the game itself, I wanted to talk about the controversy surrounding the final entry in the series. While Exmortis 1 and 2 were flash games you could play for free on Newgrounds, Exmortis 3 had a paid release. The version of Exmortis 3 that's currently on Newgrounds is a free demo of the game. The full version of the game was once purchasable on Fizzy.com for roughly $17 US. Reactions to this news were pretty mixed, and many users were wondering why they had to pay for the game when the last 2 were free. On a post from Leffler's blogspot promoting the release of Exmortis 3, a user named Elizabeth comments, "Ben, your games usually are free to play. Why it needs to be paid? I understand it was a hard work for you during these 3 years. You said the game is $20 for Australia and $17 for the States, but you didn't give the price of euro here in Europe. So probably the game will be around 15 to 25 pounds as for my calculations." Leffler responds, "I understand and completely appreciate that, Elizabeth. The financial crisis, economic difficulties, and a lack of spending money these days makes it difficult. I feel for you, I really do. The fact remains that I have been working full-time here at 3RD Sense on Exmortis 3 for the past 9 months, and they have supported me, my vision, and as a result, the development of the game ends up costing a considerable amount. Without the backing of 3RD Sense, Exmortis 3 would not have been made. Period. So here is the dilemma. Either no Exmortis 3 gets made, or it does and is priced at, according to current exchange rate, less than 12 euros. I've put my heart and soul into the creation of this game, and I am sorry that you are disappointed. Sifting through the rest of the comments on this Blogspot post, there's a variety of opinions on the game's paid release. Some people are happy that the game is finally coming out, some are having trouble with the game's activation code after purchase, and some are very excited. When the demo went live on Newgrounds on September 8th, 2009, it sadly wasn't as popular as previous entries in the series. For reference, Exmortis 1 currently stands at over 3 million plays and a score of 4.58 out of 5 stars, while Exmortis 2 stands at over 1 million plays and a score of 4.7 out of 5 stars. Exmortis 3, on the other hand, has about 289,000 plays and a score of 3.46 out of 5 stars, making Exmortis 3 the lowest rated and lowest played game in the series. As far as I know, there's no way to tell how the game performed on Fizzy because the site was shut down in 2015 after being acquired by eGames. On Newgrounds though, many users rated the game a 0 out of 5 stars solely because they were upset about having to pay for the game. Demo version? A demo version? Well, I loved the series up until now. Thanks for giving us 2 great games and then making us have to pay to be able to see the damn conclusion. No pay to play, no conclusion. Simple as that. Here's to hoping you get a violin for Christmas. That's a crazy ass response. I've never heard that before. It's not even that funny. It's just so weird. While most of the comments on Newgrounds are focused on the paid release of the game, there are a few comments here and there that actually discuss the contents of the game. From what I understand, several users found Exmortis 3 to be a disappointing entry that departs from what made the first 2 games so great. It sounds like there's more of an emphasis on action rather than horror. Now, I don't want to talk too much about the gameplay since I didn't play it myself, but from what little reviews I could find on the game, it sounds like a lackluster conclusion for the series. Worst of all is now that Fizzy is defunct, it is impossible to purchase Exmortis 3 like you would back in the day. But you should be able to play the game with the Flashpoint Archive. This community-driven project has preserved thousands of old Flash games and animations, saving them from the digital abyss. From what I understand, you can play the entire Exmortis series through Flashpoint for free. Yep, that's right, you can just dodge that $20 price tag and experience the conclusion of the Exmortis series for free. If you do end up playing the game, please come back here after you beat it and tell me how you feel. Is it good? Is it bad? Would you say it'd be worth $20? Let me know what you think. Now, after enduring all of the terror embedded into every single pixel that danced across my computer's monitor, was I rightfully crowned the bravest in my class? No, are you kidding me? While I did sit with all of my friends and watch them play through these horrifying experiences, I didn't do shit. The only game I played with my own hands was Free Ice Cream, and I only played that for like 10 or 15 minutes. I don't even recall if we ever even named someone the bravest, but if we did, sure as hell wasn't me. A lot of the games we talked about today weren't nearly as terrifying as I remember them being. But, you know, I kinda thought that would happen. These games were some of my first experiences with actual horror games, so there was no way they were gonna hit as hard as they did back in the day. Prior to these Flash games, the only horror games I had played were the Haunted Mansion and Maximo Ghosts to Glory on my PS2. And fuck man, Maximo was hard as hell. Still though, I appreciate all of these Flash games for what they are and how they've allowed people all across the world to experience horror games for free. I like to think that my time spent with these games helped spur my interest in the horror genre, and maybe that applies to other people out there as well. Even if these games aren't the best, you can tell that a lot of these devs poured their hearts and souls into these little passion projects, and that's always admirable. Who knows, maybe if I never played these Flash games, I might not even have the channel that I have right now. Flash games played a huge role in shaping the person that I am today, but I feel like there's an unsung hero of this story that we're all forgetting to thank. So a big thank you to Mr. Green for not watching me and my classmates and letting us Google whatever the hell we wanted to. I definitely saw some things that I shouldn't have, and some of them may have traumatized me, but hey, it all worked out in the end. A huge thank you to my supernatural supporters over on Patreon. Oh man, this video took a long time to put together. I was already busy because I had a lot of things to do in the month of March, but then my power went out and I was just SOL. And then Resident Evil 9 came out, I completely forgot about that, so I had to take some time and get through that. And then Fatal Frame 2 Remake came out, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm drowning in all of the horror. I haven't even gotten the time to play that one yet because I've been so busy with this. I did beat RE9 though, and I will say, no spoilers, but Grace gotta be one of the most relatable video game characters of all time for me. I shit you not, there were so many times during my playthrough where Grace and I had the exact same verbal reactions to certain things happening. Overall, really solid game, super good. It's one of my favorite Resident Evil games of all time now. I'm just gonna say it. I don't know when is the right time to tell this story, so I'm just gonna tell it now. On Halloween of last year, I went to a Halloween party and I went dressed up as Chris Redfield. It was a super humbling experience because almost everyone at that party was like, dude, who the hell are you supposed to be? And then I was talking with one girl and she was like, oh my god, wait, I think I know who you are. And I was like, oh my god, really? And she was like, yeah, you're Leon, right? So I'm never doing that again. So if you guys want to leave me a suggestion for this year's Halloween party, I'm open because clearly I don't know how to pick them. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and if there are any other Flash games you want me to cover potentially in the future, definitely let me know. Or if you've got a suggestion for my series where I look at the elements of horror and non-horror games, let me know about that too. I'm all ears. Alright, I've got to get going now and brace myself for RE9's insanity mode. I'm scared. That's all I have for you. Take care.